Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here today and showing up to this masterclass / live session about this new focus, this new topic that I am bringing, and I have started bringing already a few months ago. Okay, let's give a couple of seconds to see if someone can join in. Hello, Caroline, Luisa, nice to see you guys. Thanks for being here. Okay, so how all of these shifts have been brought into my online programs recently, I'm going to tell you today. And also on top of that, hi Daniel, nice to see you as well. So today there will be a masterclass, a lesson, a live, a Q&A, is a little bit of everything, okay? And there will be the space for questions at the end. So if you want to stick until the end, you can ask me some questions at the end, or write your feedbacks straight into the feeds of a live, so I can see what you're thinking, what you're feeling about the things that I will tell you today. And there will be also space for questions about the workshop Conducting the Chaos that I am going to lead in Bologna in November. And today is the last day to subscribe with the early bird. So how did all of this started being part of my music education approach and my entire attention, let's say, of music therapy as well, as a music therapist. So I think that very quickly, before going into the activities that I will tell you today for to help the kids self-regulate when they come into our music sessions after a whole day of stress, okay? So, as you probably know, a couple of years ago, I received the diagnosis for ADHD, not because I realized that I had ADHD, not because I self-diagnosed myself, but because people around me started getting the diagnosis and I started understanding more and more about ADHD. And at that point, I was like, okay, let's just check. One of my best friends was telling me, I think you do have it. I think I can see things in you. But she was also telling me, I don't really understand how you can be so functional, how you can be so successful, how you can bring to your world all the things that you've brought, building Music Tree, building an online community. So in her mind, these things couldn't get together, and in my mind as well, because I always thought actually that having ADHD or having a neurodiversity would have been something a lot more visible, okay, or that it would have had impacts that I would have understood, especially as a music therapist. But this is not the reality. It's a lot more subtle. Having a neurodiversity is something that it's a really hidden and invisible. So I've studied, since I got the diagnosis, I studied a lot about ADHD, but before that, I worked on executive functions and music for many, many, many years. That's always been my main interest since I started studying music education. I was always asking myself, why are we doing music? What are the benefits that music can bring to the brain of a child? Because I knew that for me, music brought an incredible development, a cognitive development. But I didn't know that I felt it was so important because I had ADHD. It wasn't clear to me what actually happened to my brain. So when I started teaching, basically immediately I went into music therapy. I went to study psychology. I went to study neuroscience. I went to study how the brain works. And obviously in the last 20 years, there have been so much research around it. And that's been incredibly helpful. And then I had other option to deepen my personal music approach and understand how executive functions were supported through my approach. And, I did a pilot research with University College London. I worked with other teachers that were already studying executive functions. So I had opportunities. And then, obviously, since 2023, when I got the diagnosis, I was like, okay, let's study, let's understand. And it's recently, before March, that I've decided to bring this topic to my community online, to my movement online, with the support of Flavia Capuano, which is a psychologist and a behavior analyst. So that's always been in my interest. So it shouldn't come as a totally new thing to you. But obviously, understanding ADHD and understanding how that impacted myself has opened a lot of clarity. Okay, and every day I understand more of myself. The people around me can understand better. I can understand better behaviors of my family where potentially I can see some ADHD as well. So, there is a very big genetic connection between people with ADHD in the same family. I think it's about the 80%. So it's been a life-changing aspect having the diagnosis for me. Okay, and again, it's not about self-diagnosing, because a lot of people now are self-diagnosing ADHD, autism. Well, if you have some doubts, go and do a diagnose, because it can really help your life and the people around you. Don't just think, oh yeah, I have some ADHD symptoms, so you know what, that's it. No. Ask for help, ask for support. Because the diramazioni, the connections that your brain with an ADHD have in your daily life are incredibly big. And sometimes we just don't realize how big they are, because we have internalized the symptoms so much that we think that that's absolutely okay. Or, yeah, I am done in this way. Yeah, but maybe if you know yourself even better, then you can have an easier life, a better life, a more functional life, more social interactions, more relationship with people. You can stop blaming yourself for things that happen to yourself, to your life, and etc. I could go very, very long with this, and I will, because there will be spaces for this in the future. I am also studying now to become an ADHD coach, because I think that this is going to be really having a big impact in the community of musicians and artists that I am working with right now. So that's also an extra step that I decided to take for myself. But, how does this connect with music education? Well, because ADHD has a dysfunction in the executive functions. And the executive functions are in the brain of every person, okay, of every child. Now, how do we support the development of those executive functions? It's an incredible story, okay? There is genetic, there is environment, there is internal motivation. All of these things adds up to the development and the maturity of executive functions in a person. They are here, okay, in this part of our brain. And they don't fully develop technically until the 25 years of life, more or less. So that can tell you a lot, okay? So when kids come to our sessions and they have done a whole day in school. Now, when I was going to primary school, I don't know when you were going to primary school, but when I was going to primary school, I finished at 1:30, okay? And sometimes I had a long day until 4. Some other kids, obviously, were staying to school until 3:30 or 4 already at that time. But in the 80s, the 90s, it was much more normal to have half day of school, at least in Italy. Then the afternoon was left to do some homeworks, but also to play a lot, to experience, to live nature, to run out, to release the tensions, okay? And to also learn different things. Learn about being bored, Learn about being creative with little things that you have in the house. Learn about how to play with the toys that you have in your room and that you've played with every day. How can I get creative with the things that I have in front of me? Nowadays, children tend to go to school until 3:30, 3:15, 3:30. Some of them also stay for clubs in the afternoon and stay maybe until 4, 4:30, 5. So the time that they have to play without a structure is very little. The time that they have to be by themselves is also very little. We also now live in a society that is quite scary sometimes, not because bad things have never happened before, but because we are always constantly bombarded by negative news, okay, about people doing terrible things. So we could, think, oh my God, the world is all that. And so we don't leave our children to be by themselves. I am worried when my own daughter runs off another aisle in the supermarket. And she's 5, she's almost 5, she's 4.5. And I'm like, she can go. I need to trust her to go to the next aisle and come back to me. I have to give her the opportunity to go there. If I don't let her go there, I'm blocking her possibility to develop self-regulation, listening, orientation, lots of skills. So as parents, we are in a system that is difficult. It's very difficult. So these kids arrive to our music sessions after a whole day of school, and potentially they come on Thursday and they have already done on Monday football, on Tuesday French, on Wednesday something else, and on Thursday they come to us and they are knackered. Their brains are filled with informations. They are a bit overwhelmed, okay, by all the requests that adults have put on them. Stay in the queue. Stay quiet, stay in the circle, look at the board where I'm explaining things to you. And then, you have a bit of time to play by yourself. But when you're playing, don't run too much. Don't get on the trees, if they're lucky to have trees in the gardens. So lots of rules that our children have to respect to stay in a system that is quite restrictive, okay? And it is quite restrictive not because of the teachers, not because of the heads of the school, but because of the money that governments invest in music education, okay? So, music education, in education. If schools were reducing the numbers, we have more teachers that can look after the children, everything would be different, and our students potentially will not be so overwhelmed. Our kids potentially will be a bit more relaxed about this old school system, okay? But no, they are in groups with 30 children in England, 30 kids, 34, 33 kids. I speak with teachers all the time and they are telling me, I am done. It's a parking. I can't really help the students as much as I would like to. Now, this is the system where we live. Let's take it and try to see what we can do to make it better. We can protest, obviously, but to support our students before that, we can have little ideas and little activities for these brains that arrive to our sessions and they are a bit fried, okay? So how do I know these things so well? Well, because my brain goes under that type of stress every day, naturally. I'm one of those lucky people where their brains never stops, where I always have to kind of stop my impulses, regulate myself a lot better because naturally my executive functions don't work in that way, where I need a lot of externals, motivation to do things because my dopamine is lower than normal. Okay, this is an ADHD brain. How an ADHD brain is about controlling a lot when you are an adult. Also, you get used to things, obviously, through life, but it's a constant self-regulation, much more of an aware self-regulation that a normal brain has to do normally, just to be an adult, okay? Do not interrupt people when they're speaking. I really would like to say that thing, oh, but I can't say that thing because it's not really connected to what the person is talking about. What was that person talking about? Okay, this can be an internal conversation sometimes. Or you're in a very big place with a lot of people feeling overwhelmed because there are too many things to look around. Okay, these are poor executive functioning. And the brain of a person with executive functions is constantly working to behave in an acceptable way for the society and for their own happiness and joy, okay? To be accepted, to have a behavior that is socially acceptable. So, when I know all of this, because I live it, I have lived it since I was a girl. And now that I'm an adult, I'm understanding a lot because I'm studying my brain and I'm studying ADHD. I know all of these things are happening within me. And so I can see kids having the same things. It's not that you have all ADHD. That's the problem that we tend to have now. Oh, everybody has ADHD. No, guys, no. But the society in which we're living in doesn't make us have a very nice and relaxed life. Okay, and our executive functions are under stress a lot. Or we don't give the right support to them to develop. Not all the time, but it's quite a general thing, okay? That's why now we think that all kids have ADHD when they behave badly, okay? When their behavior is not their behavior that you would expect from a child. Staying seated, well, but you can't stay seated for 6 hours. You can't ask that to a child for too many hours. That's why then when they come to music and they find a space where they can explore, they can't self-regulate, okay? Because they're not used to that, or they're doing it too much. Ciao nonna, mi dispiace che parlo in inglese. I'm sorry that I'm speaking in English. Okay, so to bring it back to our music classes, these kids arrive, they are tired, their brains are overwhelmed. It's like they have some symptoms of ADHD. Some behaviors that they have can remind us of behaviors that normally you would see in people that have ADHD, okay? So I'm not suggesting that everybody has ADHD. That's not the point. The point is that our brains, kids' brains, are tired when they arrive to our sessions. And it's like having kids with ADHD. It's like in a group of 5, you see them behaving and it's like, oh God, 3 of them have ADHD. No, it can't be that. What it can be is that 3 of them are incredibly tired out of 5. But in a group of 9, sometimes of 10, which are the numbers of my groups at Music Tree, I would say that 8 have a behavior, have had ADHD behavior, an hyperactive behavior, an impulsive behavior, a lack of self-regulation behavior. But it's not ADHD, okay? So, how do I approach this? Well, depending on the age, I support the children in different ways, but there are always some exercises that basically bring them back to the now, to the moment where they are, and reconnects them not only to their friends, their classmates, but also to the music. So I use music and some activities, motor activities, to reconnect, to recenter. This is a practice that I have done for myself. In many situations, I recognize this, I go after a full day of work, let's say, again, Wednesday night. My first 3 days of a week are already quite intense for my work. But Wednesday night, I'm tired. I'm very tired. And sometimes I was going to circle singing or to vocal improvisations groups, okay? And what happens in a normal setting, a normal musical setting for adults? Especially if they are circle singing, vocal improvisation, contact improvisation, this type of environments, will dedicate a long time for the people to arrive. What does it mean? Not that we stay there and we wait for the people to arrive. That's not what I mean. I mean that we would do activities to refocus and recenter, to reconnect who we are. our body. How are we feeling? Are we feeling overwhelmed? What are the emotions that we are having right now? What are the exercises, vocal exercises, motor exercises that can help us to feel better? What is a warm-up that we could do to bring the people in the moment? Okay? Put a thumb up if you follow what I'm saying, if you experienced that yourself in some musical activities as an adult. For example, one activity that is quite often used in vocal improvisation is to ask the people around the circle to create a motor movement, a movement or a vocal movement to release tension or to warm up. Well, a lot of people do this. A lot of people go down with the head. They go like, right? Or another thing is twisting. A lot of twists like that. Lots of movement that are outside of normal motor patterns that we have in our day. So I started thinking, that was about 3 years ago. I started thinking, wait a moment. If we give all of this space to adults to reconnect with their own body and with and bring their mind to the now, to calm their mind down. If we give all of this to adults, because obviously adults are stressed, right? Adults come from work, adults come from problems in the family, responsibilities. So why do not dedicate the same care to the mental health of children when they are arriving to our sessions? Why are we not integrating a lot more of this type of warm-ups games in our sessions? Why? Because we have a program. Because we need to do this and this and this in our classes. Because I have to prepare for a Christmas recital. Because my boss in the school is coming to see what I'm doing, and I have to do the Dorian mode, and I have to teach the chords, and I have to teach these lyrics, and I have to prove that my students are learning. Yeah, little detail though. These kids are not learning if they're not ready to learn. Their brain cannot take any new information. They cannot assimilate any new learning, any new content if they're not ready for it. So that's what was happening in my sessions 3 years ago when I realized that this was happening more and more, okay? Before COVID, it was a bit better. After COVID, it started being, and everybody was like, it's COVID, it's COVID. Nah, it's not COVID. It's how we're living our lives after COVID. It's the pace that we have chosen to follow after everything moved online and everything is done with a click. And fuck you, Amazon. I'm just gonna bring that back in just because I think that is always good to say, but also because, God, how good it is to go to a shop and buy something at the shop. Walk to the shop, have the time to go to the shop, have a social interaction with the person in the shop, buying and going back home instead of just clicking something after scrolling. Okay, Amazon is... Get off Amazon as soon as you can, guys. And here the people are leaving the chat. Okay, so all of this to say, we need to dedicate the same type of care to the mental health of children when they come into our sessions. So I started creating activities based on what I would do as an adult and as a person with ADHD. So as a person that has poor executive functions and as a person that struggles with overwhelming feelings. Okay. So my first try was like, maybe the kids need to run. Maybe kids need to steam off. There is always this idea that to refocus, you have to steam off. Actually doesn't work. Not all the time, at least. So again, depending on the age, I use different activities because also kids need to cognitively understand them or need to be able to do them from a coordination point of view. So it's not that one thing works with all the kids, okay? But let's talk about children that can coordinate, and they are about the age of, let's say, 5+. okay? 5, 6, 7 children of his age. So based on my own experience, I need to do motor patterns. I need to explore motor patterns that I don't do every time, okay? So lines, circles, rotations, things that, by the way, are present in yoga as well, right? So last week and the weeks before, but last week was a good one because in that class I have a child that has a very hyperactive behavior. He's in the autism spectrum. He also has some difficulties in his sight, and he hasn't been yet, I think, fully diagnosed with ADHD, but I have a doubt in that. But anyway, I think so, but I think that the families were, when they came, they were more worried about the autism spectrum, obviously, but now it's actually ADHD that is impacting his behavior more. So the first class 2 weeks ago with him was a mess, was a real mess. I had 7 of them, so 7, not even 30, 7. And he could not stay still. But not only him, also the other 2 girls in the group. So in 7 kids, 3 were a constant move, a constant rotation. And so I did one exercise that I normally do, but that was not enough. Okay, that exercise is a motor exercise where we can choose the movement that they like, kind of a Dalcroze type of thing, I think, where they can choose a movement that they like and suggest that movement to the rest of the group. But that seemed to, instead of calming down, to agitate him even more. And so it was like, okay, next week I need to try something different. So last week I decided to bring in different exercises that I mostly do for myself and that I had tried with other groups before. And I brought in the exercises that I'm telling you now. But obviously I also have to think about the musical learning and the parents' pressure, okay? Are they learning? Are they trying an instrument? Are they developing their musicality? These are all obviously requests that are part of my setting, okay? Things that I want to develop. So we started by learning the song that I would have used in my session with the instrument. Okay, so these kids can coordinate and they can play melodies already. They are 5 and 6. This boy is 7. He is a bit older, the one that has that is in the autism spectrum and ADHD. So he's a bit older, but he can participate perfectly with this group. And so what we did is that I taught the song that I needed to use later in my session. And for this specific age, since it was also only the second class of a term, I decided to use a song that normally potentially I would have used with younger kids to develop coordination, which means that I choose a song that has strong accents, and I'm going to sing it to you. Song with strong accents, very recognizable patterns, rhythm patterns, so children perfectly know when they have to play it, okay? And how I normally teach this song is by moving around the room, using body percussion, using potentially the colorful spots, asking kids to jump. So normally I would use a lot of movement in the first 15 minutes of a session to learn the songs and develop coordination and tonal skills as well. With them, this time, I decided to instead move that part as a second moment of a session. And in the first part, for 10 minutes, really focus on understanding how the melody was developing without teaching it. So only by listening it. And then I would use the following exercises. So I started with letting them going down on the floor. The first thing have been everybody lying on the floor and simply doing the angel, the snow angel, okay? So lots of children, but also adults, to self-regulate. What do? We do on the floor and we start doing some stretching. Or we lie on the floor with our arms down and we breathe. So being on the floor is a very good way of self-regulate our nervous system. So I asked the children to lie on the floor and to do, some snow angel, just to give them something to do. Because otherwise, if you tell them just, lie on the floor, they potentially start rolling, making mess around. So the first thing that we did, the first thing that we did was rolling. They just had to roll on the mat, which is a very thick and comfortable mat. So very high for sensory stimulation, but also for the nervous system to calm down. So kids were just rolling in the mat whilst I was singing a song. Okay, that was the first thing. Second thing, stopping and doing the snow angel. Okay, so everybody had their own space and I was singing my song. They would listen to the melody. They would learn naturally how the melody would go. So I didn't have to teach it next or later during the session. They were doing the snow angel. And then I told them, okay, now we need to try to do a next level snow angel, a very tricky one. And you throw in a different challenge for the brain, which is to basically do half snow angel. One left and the opposite arm. So only that. Staying on the floor whilst I was listening to the song. They were listening to the song. And then again. Okay, so this, for a child that is learning how to coordinate and is developing laterality, is not a very simple game. But when you're doing it on the floor, it has a completely different effect on you. Okay, if you're doing it by standing, you also have to balance. And it's more complicated. If you're doing it when you're lying on the floor, it has a different feeling. So the song that I was singing was a triple meter song. If you're using music learning theories and a music learning theory approach, you know that when we're talking about a triple meter song, we mean a song that feels like a triple. Do-da-di, 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 do, okay? So the song was like, bum 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 bum. Okay, so it's a Aeolian song. So you're also introducing them to a mode. And they were simply doing this snow angel, listening to this nice melody. Okay, the melody also have lyrics. After that, I wanted them to still experience this song. So I told them, okay, now we're going to sit and we're going to touch each other's back. So I'm sitting on the floor, but somebody else is also behind me. Okay, and so our backs are touching, and this also is a very good way of calming down when your nervous system is overwhelmed, okay? What does a child do? A baby does, or what a toddler does when they are overwhelmed. They run to a parent, they run to their carer, and they want cuddles. Yeah? Not all the time. Sometimes they're so overwhelmed that actually they can't even have a cuddle. But this is not the situation in which we were. But generally, a child to calm down uses the body of their carers to feel better, to self-regulate, okay? So the contact brings that type of nervous system regulation, let's say. So they are together like that, and they're singing the song. Simply by staying like this, I'm singing, they're just listening, pam, 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 and then they have to twist. Again, the movement that I told you from yoga, no? There's a lot of twisting in yoga, and also for myself. Twisting the body is something that we don't do much in our day. So again, you're bringing different motor patterns to your session. So, pam, 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 you turn, pam, 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 pam. And this clapping hand is a lot of focus for the brain when you are in this position and you have to clap with another one. Okay, it's a lot of work for the brain. There is contact again, but there is also fun because maybe you don't get the hand. There's a little bit of a mess going around. But again, you're focusing on something very specific and your brain is starting shifting to what's happening in that moment. But it's not a specific request of, okay, now stay still and listen to me. This is a different thing, okay? In this way, we're still asking the brain to focus, obviously, but we're also helping it to kind of calm down. So Pam, 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 pam. Other side. Pam, 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 pam. Pam, 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 pam. Pam, 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 pam. Okay, extra difficult, extra challenge at the end. Clap the hands together on top of the head. Again, something that they don't do normally, and a movement that they haven't explored. They start laughing, they start communicating. Okay, so we're bringing them back in our sessions when they are listening to the song and learning the melody. Then I said, okay, now let's do some breathing. Yeah, a breathing exercise which is fundamental, obviously, to calm down the nervous system. We just need to take 3 big breaths sometimes, very big breaths sometimes, to just feel better. So I obviously needed to introduce this in my sessions in a nice, fun way. And we simply did it by singing and blowing in the fingers. So they are already in primary school, so I don't need to tell them, oh, think that this is a flower, and we're smelling the flower, and we are blowing away the petals. Okay, this is something that you would do. Ciao, Daniel. Thank you for being here. That's something that we would do potentially with kids that are younger, to give them a motivation of inspiring and expiring. Expiring? I'm not sure. Exhaling. Inhaling. Yeah. I translated it from Italian. Inhaling and exhaling. Okay. Inspirare, we say in Italian, we say inspirare, but also inhalare, so I got confused. Inhale and inhale. So with these kids, I could simply say, okay, you have to blow your fingers down, you have to blow and push them down or back inside, I don't know what did I say, but anyway, it was like this. Bam, 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 bam. Bam, 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 bam. Bam, 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 bam. Bam, 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 bam. So I would also work on their audiation, okay? This is a typical exercise that we do in music learning theory when children are in formal instruction. We make holes in the music, and in that moment of holes, we are potentially listening to what's happening in our brain. Okay, very, very important for the development of tonal and rhythm skills. So with this game, that was perfect. I'm working on audiation whilst I'm also working on self-regulation and calming the nervous system. And then in the last finger, because this is a song that would feel only my first 4 fingers, I would sing a pattern. And I would say, okay, now let's think and blow. Bum, bum, bum. Breathing, done. Okay, so I've done the angel, the snow angel. If you just joined in now, you can go back and listen to the live later. You know, with snow angel, start working on coordination and laterality. So the brain gets very focused on that. Second thing, twisting the body for body percussion activity. Third activity, breathing. Now we need something fun, right? So the next level was simply bring it back to being children, very fun, very silly, and using a bit of our emotions and our, let's say, self-expression, creative self-expression. And so it was like, bam, 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 bam. And they had to make like silly faces, monster faces, cute faces. We did a bam, 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 bam. And they were playing in couples. So they had this type of, fun at the end of a session. At that point, they knew a song perfectly. They knew exactly when they had to play. I brought in the instruments and they knew exactly when to play. I only had to tell them these are the notes. We did a little bit of tonal patterns at that point, but it was done. Okay, so I managed to introduce these exercises pretty simply, and the result was great. Children were a lot more focused, a lot more calm. It worked very, very well. So These are some of the techniques that you can use in your sessions. If you're working with older kids, adolescents, there are other activities that you can do, obviously. If you're working with adults, again, there are body music settings, body music, circle singing, circle music activities that you can create to make them focus exactly on what they're doing in that specific moment and help them through challenges, through step-by-step exercises to really calm down their nervous system and focus on the moment. And this is generally what an ADHD brain needs. They need constant novelty. They need constant interest and motivation. But at the same time, they need routine. So they need to understand what's going on. They might need to repeat it the week after, but a little bit different. Because if it's only the same, then they get bored. Actually, it's not that they get bored. Their brain cannot focus on that. Okay? And again, it's not that all kids have ADHD, but in this society, lots of kids present a poor executive function symptoms. Okay? Because of all the things that I said in this masterclass today, live masterclass. Okay, so any questions here, guys? I want to obviously remind you that today is the last day to subscribe to the workshop Conducting the Chaos ADHD Plus, which is going to be all about these type of things. Okay, so my part will focus on bringing activities that can support the development of executive functions, therefore support ADHDers. Okay? Adults or children, because I think that my type of approach is characterized by the fact that I have ADHD. And so I want to work the less possible. If I want to do only things that I like, because the things that I like give dopamine to my brain and I can focus on them. So what I've learned through the years is how to adapt the same type of activity to many different ages. So the workshop will work in this way. We will have a very important part with Flavia Capuano, the psychologist that work with me. And she will be explaining all the details of ADHD, bringing in misunderstanding, bringing in ideas that we might have heard on Instagram about ADHD. Okay, so we will, by the way, I'm on Instagram now, so. But yeah, Flavia will bring all of the, let's say, psychological part of ADHD very clearly in the workshop. And instead, I will focus on bringing you the activities, bringing you the games that can help kids and adults with ADHD to self-regulate. And there will be a lot of space to share. So there will be situations, we will be able to understand what it means to either have ADHD or to have a person with ADHD in the family, or a child with ADHD, or our students. Okay, so all of this is accepted. This is our first ADHD and music workshop. We are definitely planning to do more because we have lots of requests so far. And especially we have lots of people asking from online. But no, guys, there won't be an online course on ADHD. And this is because we need to meet, we need to experience the activities, we need to try. So if you cannot come this time, which is on the 8th and 9th of November, in Bologna, in Italy, if you've never been to Bologna, book a flight now because it's one of the most beautiful cities in Europe. And they do very good food and very good spritz, which is obviously part of the workshop. So if you cannot come to Bologna, potentially we will repeat something in the UK. Or if we are invited to do it somewhere else, we're also open to this alternative, to this option. And we're open to discuss how we can bring this workshop in other countries. Obviously, we could do it at Music Tree in the UK, so we don't have to pay rent and everybody can just come in. We can keep the prices a bit lower. So we're starting with Bologna and potentially the UK in 2026, but we're still not sure. about that. But definitely we don't want to bring it online, even if the request is incredibly high. But I do believe that music needs to be experienced. If you want to study in the meantime the executive functions and have some ideas of how to use your activities to develop executive functions, then we also have another course online, and that's called Cognitive Crescendo. So even Conducting the Chaos, this workshop in Bologna, is part of this big series of workshops that we're doing about neuromusic. Okay, so executive function, self-regulation, all of this type of emotional regulation are part of Cognitive Crescendo, which is the series that Flavia and I have opened in March last year. So there is that online course. It's just not an experience altogether. Okay, so in Cognitive Crescendo, you have a possibility to Cognitive Crescendo. By the way, I say it so English, even if Cognitive Crescendo, it's an Italian word. It's like saying pizzicato. No, pizzicato. Sorry, you see my ADHD brain. Okay, so what was I saying now? Oh my God, that was too fun to do not say, and now I don't remember it. Great. No, I was saying that Cognitive Crescendo is online, and it gives you the possibility to experience, actually to understand how to bring executive functions, music-based exercises in your classes. So in Cognitive Crescendo, you have modules in the beginning where you study the executive functions with Flavia. You have 4 sessions with me, 4 master classes with me about specific situations in the music sessions where we can support executive functions. And then you can book 1 class with me, 1 session, 1 individual mentoring with me, where you bring your own activity and we analyze it. So we start from what you're already doing, we analyze it, and we say, okay, maybe we can make it a bit more functional for this type of kids right now, or for these adults that you work with. So it's like bringing the umbrella of executive function and neuromusic on what you are already doing. Instead, in the workshops in person, I teach you my activities, and we all experience them together. So the workshop is a completely different experience that works very well if you have also yourself ADHD, or if you suspect having ADHD, or even if you want to try what it means to work on the executive functions with activities, with music, okay? Because some exercises are complicated no matter what type of brain you have. Okay, so they work on your executive functions anyway, and therefore experiencing them is a completely different thing. That's why Conducting the Chaos will stay 99%. I'm not saying 100% because, because knowing myself, I can always change my mind. But I will definitely try to keep Conducting the Chaos in person. Just let me know if you want us to bring it somewhere else in the world. For the moment, it's going to be in Bologna, 8th and 9th of November. I think I said that. Oh, yeah. Deadline for the subscription with the early bird is today. So if you have been part of my courses before, even if that happened 6 years ago or 5 years ago, you can still pay €87. And this is an incredible offer that I'm doing for the people that have studied with me, to support the fact that we have to always keep studying and always keep staying updated, okay, for our job. And also to be happier as music teachers and music educators. Being together, learning more, it's always very good. So there is an extra €10 less. So it's £87 if you've been in my courses before, or if you are currently in my courses, €87, sorry. From tomorrow, the price goes up to 127. So it's not such a huge difference, but if you're traveling from another country, if you have to take a train, which is happening, if you have to take a room with somebody else, which is happening, because I know of people that have subscribed now and they have to travel quite far to be there, even 50 quid less can make a difference. So, do you have any questions? If you have any questions, please write below. Or if you want to give me any feedback on what I said. Bring your own personal experience. I'm here for a few seconds to see if you want to open up or ask some questions. Otherwise, I think I said everything. You can definitely find the link to subscribe to all of this in my link in bio. Something important. We're going to speak both languages, Italian and English, even if it's in Bologna, okay? This is because lots of people that are studying with me are from different parts of the world, from Europe as well, and I know that they are interested in coming. So my workshops, even if they are in Italy, they are always held in both languages, okay? And if you are Spanish and you don't understand English and Italian, but you still want to come along, because I speak Spanish as well. And a very bad Portuguese, but that's it. Okay, I don't think there are questions here today. If you just joined, go back and watch this live, because it's a very rich live with loads of informations and loads of suggestions that you can bring to yourself if you are a neurodiverse person, but also to your students, potentially your kids, okay? Let's bring more awareness to what ADHD really is, because it's very hidden in our society. And for the moment is considered a disorder, is part of the DSM-5, I think. So it's a disability. It's considered a disability and a disorder, a behavioral disorder. But if you read and study about it, as I am doing, you will realize that the community is definitely thinking that it shouldn't be considered like that, but it's simply a different type of brain. And I believe, let's see if I'm right, but in 15, 20 years, I hope we will be able to go away with our badge or in our identity card. Oh, what type of brain do you have? Oh, you have an OCD brain? Oh, cool. Okay, so I know I have to interact with you in this way. Or, I have ADHD. Okay, so not that it's a justification, guys. Not that it is a justification. You need to work hard if you have ADHD. You need to understand how your brain works to live better in a society that don't understand you or that is not built around you, okay? But the majority of the people with ADHD are very functional people that simply behave or needs to interact with the world in a different way. And so it's important to bring, in a way that is not built for our brains, okay? So there are routines that we need to learn. There are things that we can do for ourselves, but also we need to bring awareness to the people that are considering ADHD simply something that hyperactive boys have. It's absolutely not true. Here we could talk a lot more about the effect that hormones, for example, have in women with ADHD, in mothers during pregnancy or straight after pregnancy. People that have ADHD have no clue of having it and are really having a terrible time in their lives. People that are incredibly creative but cannot choose one path for their own lives. So there are many, many things that are connected with ADHD, and therefore bringing more awareness to this is fundamental. And I think it's going to be part of my life for the rest of my life. Okay, so guys, thank you so much for being here. Don't forget that today there is the end of an early bird. In the meantime, I've seen Sofia that has subscribed for it. So thank you, Sofia, for coming. I'm very happy to see you in Bologna. And that's it. A very big hug to all of you. If you do not want to write anything today, now here in the chat, or you do not want to comment my live, write me a DM, okay? I know it's not easy when you are listening about ADHD in the beginning and you're starting thinking that potentially you have it as well. I know it's not easy to admit that potentially you have a disorder. Because it was me 2 years ago. That was me 2 years ago. So it's hard when you start thinking about these things and you think that potentially you have them and you're like, what? am I really disabled? So it's not simple. It's not easy to bring up to the people that love you, the people that are around you. Some people don't even want to listen. Some people will tell you, yeah, there is a overdiagnosed society now. And you just want to kill those people. So we can talk about it in DM, in my messages. You can send me an email or you can send me a message, and we can speak about it. And you don't have to expose yourself if you're not yet at that level, at that stage in your life. Okay? All right. Also, you can comment here if you want me to send you the PDF of a song that I have sung here today, which is all about nature. So it's quite a nice song in triple meter. I'm going to say goodbye to you by singing it one more time. Bum, 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 bum. 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 Bye, guys. Thanks so much.